Hey guys, what's up? Sandu here. And today I'll be testing a huge device, a mammoth of a unit that packs a very serious punch, and it costs as much as an entry-level interconnect cable. So what exactly it is? It's a single-ended and balancer DAC. It has a full MQA decoder inside. It's a single-ended and a balanced headphone amplifier. It has the most advanced XMOS chipset, and it also has two femtosecond clocks from Silicon, and all is wrapped in this beautiful red enclosure. So, can you guess its weight? How about its size and its price? Any guesses? Nope. Behold, the tiny monster that is only a little bit bigger than a credit card. It costs only 199 bucks, and it calls itself Khadas Tone 2 Pro. So, let's check it out. Design-wise, Tone 2 Pro is surrounded by a super slim aluminum enclosure that works as a heatsink. Khadas is offering three color options for it: black, blue or red. The volume knob seems to be really well made, it has a gnarly texture to it, and it's rubberized on top for a much better grip. It has a higher resistance than usual, which I personally like, as it will work much better with sensitive IEMs. The knob itself is not an ordinary volume wheel you normally see on most devices, as it can work as a joystick for its very advanced user interface. Please check its user manual or quick start guide to learn all its tips and tricks. The black pad under its case is made out of silicone, it works as a huge shock absorber, and it also improves its grip on slippery surfaces. As for controls, its back panel contains all its digital inputs as USB-C and coaxial. Tone 2 Pro has a secondary USB-C input labeled as I2S, and no, it's not the I2S electrical serial bus interface. It was put there just in case you'll want to power it with an external linear 5V power supply, so it could be used with sensitive power amplifiers. The RCA output can work as a fixed or not analog output, offering up to 2V of power, or as a balanced output, and that's new territory for me. With a special adapter cable that Khadas is selling separately, you can output a true balanced signal that is doubling its voltage to 4V. To its right you'll find two headphone outputs, one is a regular 3.5mm and the second one is a balanced 4.4mm one. As for the tech inside it, I will just briefly mention that it uses a flagship ESS9038 Q2M DAC chip, a flagship Altera FPGA, flagship Silicon femtosecond clocks, flagship XMOS USB receiver, full MQA decoding capabilities, 4 warm and smooth sounding OPA 1612 op-amps, and a fully balanced input to output design in a body that weighs exactly 100 grams and that isn't bigger than a credit card. Alright folks, all is fine and dandy, but how does it perform as a music making machine? That's the big question. So let's find that out together. So how does the credit card sized all-in-one unit is sounding more exactly? It sounds absurdly clean, it sounds extremely transparent, very detailed. It doesn't have a noise floor whatsoever, even at maximum volume with ultra-sensitive IEMs and even on high gain. This thing could easily be the last device you'll ever need with your IEMs, with your portable headphones, with desktop headphones, even some planar magnetic headphones like these ones were driven at their fullest, so which was quite impressive. I was not prepared for the amount of cleanness and detail that is coming out of this thing. Folks, I'm not joking at all. This sounds like proper hi-fi, like the last DAC you'll ever need hi-fi. In my honest opinion, there are two things that might pose a problem in the future. So first of all, it's very limited capacitance due to its very small size, meaning that it cannot store a lot of power for higher and wilder dynamic swings, and that will directly impact the performance of harder to drive headphones like planar magnetic headphones that you see on my right. And the second issue is that its very clean, very revealing nature is revealing basically everything hidden in your music, including their imperfections. Its treble performance is a little bit more accentuated, usually how ESA Sabre designs are sounding, and not everybody is pursuing this kind of sound. So Tone 2 Pro isn't exactly a smooth sounding or a warm sounding DAC. It is not soul grabbing. The absolute coolest thing is that you can even use it with your smartphone on the go. My Android phone is working flawlessly with it, and it easily drives most headphones from my collection with minor exceptions. In terms of noise floor, I don't know exactly what mambo jumbo, what ritual dances Khadas performed while developing this unit, but it is utterly and simply dead silence with everything that I have at my disposal, starting with ultra-sensitive IEMs like FiO FI9, FI7, then going to portable over-ear headphones, then to dynamic desktop headphones, then to planar magnetic headphones. Everything that I have at my disposal sounded pretty much dead silence with a pitch black background, even on its maximum volume, on its high gain, and of course on its balanced output. I have experienced pretty much the same performance out of much pricier units like FiO Q5TC, like topping A50S, like topping A90, SMSL SP400, and of course to much pricier units like a Benchmark HPA4 and Sparkos Labs Aries. I've also redid my tests with via RCA out to my Benchmark HPA4, and the same story repeated itself. I've also connected it to my smartphone via USB-C, and it didn't increase the noise floor whatsoever. So this is pretty much an immaculate performance in my book, and it cannot get better than this anyway. Khadas, I'm impressed. As for power output, Tone 2 Pro offers some 210 mW of power on its balanced output and some 125 mW on its normal headphone jack. And while that doesn't seem that much, it could easily drive most of my desktop headphones that I have at my disposal, with the exception of two very stubborn headphones. So as you can expect, all IEMs were fully driven, even on the low gain and of course on the regular headphone jack. The same story repeated itself with over-ear portable headphones. But since high gain actually sounds absolutely noiseless and balanced drive as well, I've actually used high gain most of the time with all these headphones just for an added punch and for a higher engagement factor. A very pleasant surprise came in when I connected it to the biggest headphone that in my collection, RZH Phobos. That was simply fully driven by the LED in red, and the same can be said about the Kennerton Wodan that you see right here. And of course, much easier tasks like Kennerton Valley, Magni, Galarhorn, Olo S4X, Quad Ear 1, RZH Mania were fully driven by the little one. There are only two very stubborn headphones in my collection that weren't that impressive, Odyssey LCD4 and Hi-Fi-Man Aria. It was slowing down their performance, making them less impactful sounding, and higher dynamics weren't that impressive, and that is understandable given its limited power output. As for detail, retrieval, and transparency, I was quite surprised by the little fellow, how it was pointing out towards the smallest nuances, the tiniest details in my music in a very easy, relaxing way. In this regard, I'm placing it at the same level with something like SMSL SU9, with Gustard A18, with topping D50S, as I'm pretty much experiencing the same see-through, the same transparent type of sound. Mastering errors were heard loud and clear, and I'm still spotting nuances in the most unusual places in my tracks. So yeah, the tiny fellow is actually a transparent and a very resolving little creature, and I can easily compare it with much pricier units any time of the day. I had an amazing experience while listening to Night Train by Christian McBride, and the amount of detail retrieval and also naturalness that is coming out of this track is simply through the roof. So at 1 minute and 40-second mark, Christian is inhaling a lot of air in his lungs, and that felt like it was sitting 1 meter away from me. That was simply spooky real, and that was heard loud and clear. If you are crazy for micro details, for an uber transparent sound, then prepare yourself for a trade with the little Tone 2 Pro. As for Transient Response, I won't go roses are red and violets are blue for the rest of this review, right? So without a single doubt in my mind, its biggest drawback is actually the Transient Response that is directly influenced by its smaller capacitance. It simply cannot store huge amounts of power in its small tiny capacitors that are sitting inside, And if that sounds like some rocket science to you, in simple words, it cannot deliver thunder-like bass performance, it will not punch like Thor's hammer, and it cannot move huge amounts of air in an instant. However, if Tone 2 Pro is fully driving your headphones, then forget everything that I have said right now. If IEM's portable headphones, even desktop dynamic headphones are being used, then it feels mostly like a speeder than like a hard puncher. However, you can easily counterbalance its weaker slam by adding some punchy sounding amplifiers into the mix. For example, Flux Lab Acoustics FI10 and also Barson Soloist 3 would do wonders in a headphone setup. And you can do the same in a loudspeaker setup if you add KHS S300 or maybe Kinky Studio EXM7. The lesson is quite simple. As long as you don't use monster headphones with it, speed would be great and slam would be more than decent. As for the frequency response, if your headphones will be fully driven by it, or if you are using an external amplifier, be it headphone amplifier, integrated or power amplifier, then I think that its bass performance is actually very good. So I've listened to several electronic albums that I know very well, and all I've heard was simply a clean bass performance. It was going deep, it was punchy enough, and I've heard simply layers and layers of bass coming one after the other. I think that Khadas did an amazing job putting OPA op-amps in its output stage that are working really well with this particular chipset, with ESS Sabre. Otherwise, it would be simply a disaster in terms of mid-range performance. So as of right now, I find its mid-range quite linear, quite neutral sounding in a way, but there is also a little bit of naturalness, a little bit of guttural voices can still be spotted. I don't find it neither wet sounding nor dry sounding, somewhere in the middle I think, so I find it balanced in here, but please don't expect a super velvety sound or a smooth mid-range rendition because it doesn't have that. Treble performance can be described only as exemplary, so it has a very good extension, plenty of micro details can be found in here, it has zing, it has a little bit of sharpness, leading edge is very clean. Sometimes it could be a little bit too much, but only with several headphones of mine, especially with HiFiMan headphones, that could be a little bit bothersome. So overall, I find its frequency response really extended at both ends. It might lack some sub-bass impact with hard-to-drive headphones, but other than that, Tone 2 Pro renders the whole frequency response extremely well. It covers it fully, and that was surprising to experience firsthand. Okay folks, conclusion time. I never believed that so much technology, so many flagship chipsets, so many op-amps, voltage regulators and crystal oscillators can be put inside in a unit that is just a little bit bigger than a credit card. And when you listen for the first time for the Tone 2 Pro, just prepare to have a revelation in terms of cleanness, transparency and detail. It can easily be the last unit you'll ever need with your sensitive IEMs and with your portable headphones, with your desktop dynamic headphones too. It really has it all, and if you are tech junkie like myself, it will cover all your needs, and at just $200, it deserves my highest praise and recommendation. Okay guys, my full in-depth review can be found on my website. In case you want to support this channel, please subscribe to it, and as usual, listen to my music, be positive, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, bye bye.